There's a misconception that eating well on a vegan diet has to be expensive. I disagree. In fact, I think you can eat like a king or a queen on a budget and keep it 100% plant-based. To prove it, I made a week's worth of amazing meals on just $5 a day. This week, I got all of my groceries at Aldi. Big thank you to Aldi for sponsoring today's video. So let me show you what I got on my grocery run. It's Sunday afternoon, which is when I like to do some of my meal prep for the week. Before I do that though, I'm gonna show you the groceries I got at Aldi yesterday. Bag of sweet potatoes, 3 pounds of these babies. Bag of lemons, got 2 pounds. I think this is 8 lemons. Bag of onions, this is 2 pounds. That looks like 7 onions. 2 limes. If you've seen my past video on 10 cooking tips, you know how much I love using citrus in my cooking, both the zest and the juice. So we're gonna use these limes and lemons in a bunch of different dishes this week. I also got 4 avocados. Normally I would not include this in a budget video because avocados are usually quite pricey, but these were 45 cents each at Aldi, which is amazing, so that's why I've included them. 3 heads of garlic. I love garlic because it's so versatile and it's an inexpensive way to add a lot of flavor to your food. Bag number 2, button mushrooms. Button mushrooms. Bag of baby spinach, some broccoli, cilantro, soy milk, original, unsweetened. We'll use this in a few different ways this week. Organic tofu, this is the extra firm variety. Oh, and we have some strawberries in here. Almost forgot about these. Beans, they're already opened because I started soaking them yesterday for my meal prep. I'm not gonna use all of the beans here. This is a 2-pound bag. I'm gonna use about half this week. And this is also a 2-pound bag and I'm only gonna use a quarter this week. And these will stay good in your pantry for quite a while, so it's not like they're gonna go to waste. Brown basmati rice, I love brown rice. 2-pound bag as well, so probably won't get through all of it this week, but again, it is shelf stable. And some flour, a very big bag of flour that I obviously will not get through during this week, but again, I'm just gonna store it in my pantry and it will stay good for a while. All right, last bag, we've got some crushed tomatoes and some diced tomatoes. We've also got some salsa, medium heat, chunky variety, walnuts. These are already chopped, which will be convenient for me, and I'll use this in a few different ways this week. We've got 6 bananas. This last item is a little bit of a splurge, but I had a couple extra dollars in my budget, so I got a bar of dark chocolate, 85% dark chocolate. I have a minor chocolate addiction, so definitely be having a few squares of this throughout the week. One last thing, I am not including the cost of salt and pepper, oil, and spices in my meals this week because I don't really feel like calculating the cost of 1 teaspoon of oregano, but also I have these things in my pantry at all times, and I'm gonna be using fairly minimal amounts in each meal. Okay, grocery haul is done, so let's get started with some meal prep. I'm gonna start by making some saucy black beans and a tomato sofrito, and to prep, I diced up 1 of those onions pretty finely and chopped up 6 cloves of garlic. I added half of the onions to my Instant Pot. I love cooking beans in this thing. Just a little bit of olive oil in there as well, and I used the saute setting to cook them until they were just lightly browned, followed by half of the garlic, and we'll use the rest of the onion and garlic in a few minutes. Pour in the water, followed by a ½ pound of those dried black beans. Those were soaked overnight, and I seasoned this with kosher salt and black pepper and snuck in a little extra seasoning with a bay leaf. And I used the pressure cook setting for 9 minutes. In the meantime, let's make the sofrito, which refers to finely chopped aromatics cooked down in oil. There are countless variations of it in Latin and Caribbean recipes. Add the rest of the onions to some olive oil in a large frying pan with a pinch of salt. Once they're golden and softened, toss in that remaining half of the garlic along with dried oregano and red pepper flakes. Cook this for a few minutes and then pour in a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes. I normally make this dish with fresh tomatoes, but the canned variety fit into my budget a little bit better. And since it's not tomato season right now, I don't think we're losing too much flavor by using canned tomatoes. Cook this down at a rapid simmer for 10-ish minutes until most of the tomato liquid has evaporated, and then season with some salt and pep. Now let's go check on those black beans. To get that really lovely saucy texture that's not watery, scoop out a few ladles of the cooking liquid. Then we'll add the tomato sofrito directly to the beans, and of course, if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can totally cook the beans on the stove or even use canned beans. But cooking your own beans from scratch will always save you money. I used the saute setting on the Instant Pot to rapidly simmer this until it thickened up. It took about 15 minutes. And finish it with a few more flavoring agents, fresh lime juice, a drizzle of olive oil, and some chopped cilantro. And of course, a little salt and pepper to taste. These beans smell so good. I can't wait to have them this week. And if you've seen my recent video on meal prepping, you know that I think it's counterproductive to try to batch cook one big meal and eat it every single day of the week because inevitably you get tired of eating the same thing and you just order takeout. At least that's what I do. Instead, what I like to do is meal prep a few different things that I call building blocks, like these black beans that I can eat in a few different ways throughout the week. That way I have lots of variety in my diet and I don't get tired of it, but I don't have to spend that much time in the kitchen either. Let's roast some sweet potatoes in the oven. I'm peeling about 2 pounds of sweet potatoes. I bought a 3-pound bag from Aldi. I'm gonna save the rest of the potatoes for another recipe this week. And just chop the potatoes up into cubes, nothing fancy. Put these babies on a rimmed sheet pan and toss with about 1.5 tablespoons of regular olive oil, kosher salt, and black pepper to season, and get in there with your hands and toss it all together. Make sure you spread them out evenly so there's no overlap, otherwise the potatoes won't roast, they'll steam, which is pretty sad. Pop these in the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I tend to roast these for 30 to 35 minutes, and for really nice, even browning, flip them every 10 minutes. Hello! Monday morning, start of the week, time to make some breakfast. Although I do have to say I don't actually eat breakfast most days because I'm often cooking, testing recipes all day long. So I'm testing and then eating and testing and then eating. So I don't really fuel up with breakfast in the morning. But this week I have a writing heavy week. So I'm gonna have breakfast, and also kind of felt like cheating if I only did 2 meals in this $5 a day video. So we're having breakfast. So we're gonna make an easy tofu scramble, super simple. The first thing you wanna do is whisk together your spices. I'm using turmeric, paprika, red pepper flakes, and black salt, Indian black salt. That is what gives the tofu scramble this eggy flavor. Then I'm gonna add some of the soy milk into the mix and gradually whisk it together until there's a nice sauce. Grab the tofu and drain it, and then we're going to squeeze out some excess water with some paper towels and then just crumble it up into some chunks. And because I love putting onion and garlic in basically everything, I'm going to also add a little bit to the tofu scramble. Not a lot, maybe just like, I don't know, 1/4 or 1/2 of a small onion and maybe like 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. Got a large frying pan here, a non-stick one, and I'm gonna heat it up with just a little bit of olive oil, medium-high heat. Once that's hot, I'm gonna add those onions. Cook just for maybe 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes until it's just getting golden. Then add the garlic, cook for 1 or 2 more minutes, stir frequently, and then we'll add those tofu chunks. And I wanna fry those until they're lightly brown, maybe 5 to 7 minutes. You don't want to stir too often because otherwise it's not going to get that nice brown coating. Now, to mimic the texture of scrambled eggs a little bit more, we're going to pour in that spiced sauce with the plant-based milk. It's going to add some moisture to the scramble, and if you like yours wet, you can just cook it for 30 to 60 seconds. I prefer mine a little bit drier, so I'll cook it for a couple minutes. And I used the tofu scramble to make a breakfast bowl. I paired it with the sweet potatoes I roasted yesterday and some of the black bean with tomato sofrito that I made yesterday as well, and I finished it all with some chopped cilantro. Not bad for a Monday morning breakfast. This is why I love meal prepping building blocks on the weekend, so that I can make really flavorful, tasty meals without that much effort. So let's give it a try. Get a little bean, a little scramble, a little potato. I should be eating breakfast more often. This is so good and it's really hearty, so hopefully it'll keep me full for quite a while. I'm gonna go do some work on my cookbook and then I will check in with you at lunchtime. I wanted to try something new for lunch today, so I'm going to attempt to make a simple flatbread recipe. Found it online on a website called wellvegan.com. Requires just 5 ingredients. Looks really simple, so I'm excited to try it out. I've got my trusty measuring scale. We need 1.5 cups, which is about 187 grams. A little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. Okay, we also need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Baking powder, it's all stuck. 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And a teaspoon of salt. I'm using sea salt, and that's all we need for the dry ingredients. Whisk, whisk, whisk. And now for the liquid ingredients, all we need is a 1/2 cup of plant-based milk. So I've got the soy milk I have for the week, 120 milliliters for those who like to measure in metric, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Also going to whisk the liquid, and the instructions say to slowly, gradually pour this into the flour. So I will try to do that and whisk at the same time. I think I need a better whisk. Let's try it with the proper whisk. Lots more. The instructions say when it's too tough to whisk, which obviously it is, to start using your hand. So, that's squishy. I feel like I should be wearing an apron for this. This feels pretty good. It's a little just a tiny bit sticky. Just gonna let it rest in this bowl, cover it with this towel for 10 minutes, and then I will show you how to cook it. Or, I don't know, I've never made it. I'll start cooking it and we'll see how it goes. All right, little ball of dough. It's kind of fun. We're going to cut it into 4 equal parts. Bench scraper is super helpful for this. And each of these go in half. Cute, 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 cute. Now I'm gonna roll these into balls. And we want these flatbreads to be 6 inches in diameter. I think I got that part down, but mine are shaped real funky. So we'll see how this goes. For the minimal ingredients involved and how easy this was to put together, I would give this 5 out of 5. Super budget friendly, very tasty, and I'm really excited about lunch now. So I used one of these flatbreads as the base for my lunch, and to dial up the flavors even more, I added a drizzle of olive oil and a sprinkle of oregano and sea salt. I topped it with some of the black beans with sofrito, which yes, I already had with breakfast, but I am kind of obsessed with them, and I'm using them in a totally different way here, so I don't think I'm gonna get bored. Then I added half of an avocado that was perfectly sliced, if I don't say so myself, squeezed a little lime juice on top, added cilantro, and look how pretty it is. This lunch came together even better and even more beautiful than I expected, so I'm pretty pleased with myself and I'm very excited for lunch. All right, dinner time. I'm going to get started on our white beans. I'm gonna keep it pretty simple. I'm gonna saute some onions and garlic, and then I'll add the white beans with some water, salt and pepper in the Instant Pot. I love cooking beans in the Instant Pot because it's hands off, so I can get some work done while dinner is cooking. The advantage of cooking these beans very simply is that I can use them as another building block, so I can incorporate the beans into different meals throughout the week. I cooked these beans for just 4 minutes in my Instant Pot. I love how quick that is, and I'm going to set aside half of the beans. I scoop them out with a slotted spoon to use them later this week. To the remaining beans, I'm gonna boost the flavor a little bit, drizzle in some extra virgin olive oil for a richer mouthfeel and body, and season them with salt and pepper. While the white beans are cooking, I'm gonna get started on our broccoli for dinner. Let's start on the broccoli stalks first. Oftentimes these get thrown away, but they're really tasty. I'm using a wide Y-shaped vegetable peeler to thinly shave the stalks. When they're this thin, they're a lot easier to enjoy raw. And when I get to the point where I can't shave them anymore, I use a sharp knife to slice the stalks really thinly or into matchstick pieces. I'll set the stalks aside for now and get started on the broccoli crowns. I like to cut the broccoli into florets and then slice each floret into a couple of thinner pieces. That way they cook really quickly, and cutting through the bottom of the stem makes this process a lot cleaner and easier. I'm spreading out the florets on a sheet pan, and then I'm gonna put them right underneath the broiler, just like this, plain, no oil or seasonings, at least not yet. I broiled these for 4 to 5 minutes until it was lightly charred on top, though you wanna keep an eye on it because every broiler is different. I flipped the florets and then broiled for another few minutes until they were perfectly charred. Meanwhile, I grabbed some walnuts and quickly chopped those up really finely. These walnuts from Aldi are already pre-chopped, so this was pretty quick. We're gonna toast these walnuts almost like breadcrumbs in a frying pan, medium heat, with just a touch of olive oil. Cook this for 3 to 4 minutes until the walnuts are getting toasty and golden. Then add in a pinch or 2 of red pepper flakes, a little bit of lemon zest, and a bit of sea salt. Cook this for 30 seconds and stir frequently to prevent burning. Then take it off the heat and spread it out on a plate to cool down. And to assemble this all, add the charred broccoli florets to the raw shaved stalks. Add most of the toasted walnut crumbs. Squeeze in some lemon juice, season with salt and pepper, and toss everything to combine. Then drizzle in some extra virgin olive oil and give it another toss. I just love how elegant and fancy this broccoli salad is. You'd never know that it's actually really easy to make and budget friendly. I took some of the white beans that I just cooked and flavored them with a little bit of lemon zest, lemon juice, salt and pep, and a pinch or 2 of red pepper flakes. These seasonings are really simple, but they make a big difference with these beans. And I served these lemony white beans with some of the brown basmati rice I got at Aldi. I just cooked the rice in my Instant Pot with water. Yes, my Instant Pot is magical. For brown rice, I use 1 1/4 cup of water to 1 cup of rice, and I cook that at high pressure for 20 minutes. Okay, let's get a bite. I really love the slight smokiness from the charred broccoli. It kind of adds this unique, interesting flavor. It's very light, refreshing, very lemony, and it feels a little bit heartier with the white beans and rice. Overall, a very healthy, tasty meal. A little bit healthier than I'm used to eating for dinner, but I really like it. And I enjoyed this delightful and wholesome bowl outside in our backyard because eating outdoors is one of my greatest pleasures and one of the reasons I love living in California. And for my post-dinner treat, I brewed a cup of mint tea and enjoyed it with some of the dark chocolate I got at Aldi. It's 85% cacao, so it's not too sweet, and it is a really rich and chocolatey, just how I like it. I started today with my favorite morning ritual, which is to drink some Indian spice tea. I just steep 1 teaspoon each of cumin seeds, coriander seeds, fennel seeds, and fenugreek seeds in boiling water, and I write in my planner, which helps set the agenda and my priorities for the day. Since I bought a big old bag of spinach, I figured it was time to get cracking on eating some spinach. I've rolled up some spinach leaves and sliced them into ribbons, and then added those to some of the black beans with sofrito and heated that on the stove together. So today's breakfast was pretty much the same as yesterday's epic breakfast bowl, but I also snuck in some greens and topped it with some cilantro. Time for lunch, and I'm making myself a burrito bowl. I reheated some brown rice, added in those black beans, which I haven't gotten tired of, by the way, because they are so good and I've been eating them in all kinds of different ways. And I took the remaining half of yesterday's avocado out of the fridge, just tore it up into chunks with my hands, and finished this bowl with cilantro and salsa for extra flavor. Okay, a little too hot, but very tasty burrito bowl situation. For dinner, I thought it would be fun to do something a little bit different with those white beans we cooked yesterday so that I'm not eating the same beans every single day, because you know I don't like doing that. So I'm gonna take these white beans, some onions, garlic, the rest of the sweet potatoes, and improvise a sweet potato white bean soup. I've got 2 medium onions and I'm going to slice them pretty thinly. I'm also slicing 3 cloves of garlic, and that probably sounds like not very much for me for a soup, but the white beans we made have a lot of garlic in them, so I feel like it evens out. I'm gonna dice the potatoes quite finely so that they cook quickly in the soup. I heated up some olive oil in a Dutch oven, somewhere between medium-high and high heat. Once it was hot, I added those 2 sliced onions with a bit of salt and cooked for about 5 minutes until a fond started to appear on the bottom of the pot. Then I started adding a few splashes of water to deglaze the pan, and this is how I like to caramelize onions. It's a lot quicker than doing it over low heat, as long as you don't mind stirring fairly frequently and adding water along the way. And caramelizing the onions instead of just sauteing them, it's going to build more flavor into this soup. Once the onions were golden brown, I added in the sliced garlic, lowered the heat to medium to prevent that garlic from burning, and continued cooking in the same way, deglazing with a bit of water along the way until the garlic was soft and the onions were jammy. Now for some spices to boost the flavor, I added cumin, paprika, oregano, and red pepper flakes and cooked those into the onions for 30 seconds or so. And the full recipe with all the measurements can be found in the blog post, which I've linked below. Then I poured in some water, scraped up any brown bits on the bottom of the pot to soak up that extra flavor, and added the white beans that I cooked yesterday and had set aside, along with the diced sweet potatoes and a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, and seasoned generously with salt and pepper. I simmered the soup for 20-25 minutes until the sweet potatoes were really tender and the soup was nicely thickened, and then I dumped in several handfuls of some chopped spinach and cooked just until the greens were wilted. I finished the soup with a little extra flavor from some chopped cilantro, lemon juice, and of course salt and pep to taste. And then I added a little lemon zest for a bright citrus zing and a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil for some richness. This is a great affordable organic olive oil from Aldi. And I enjoyed this bowl of soup for dinner with one of the flatbreads I made yesterday. Better than I expected. I was a little nervous about the soup because I made it with water instead of vegetable broth. Obviously water doesn't have any flavor, but I think there's a lot of kind of techniques I used in the soup to build other types of flavors. I caramelized the onion, so we got that nice deep onion umami flavor. I added some garlic. Obviously the white beans had some flavor in them already because I cooked those. I finished the soup with a little lemon juice, which I think rounds it all out, and the lemon zest is really nice as well. All in all, for a budget soup, I think it's pretty good. After dinner, I sliced up some of the strawberries I bought and had a little bit of dark chocolate because, as I mentioned, I am obsessed with chocolate. For breakfast this morning, I had the rest of the tofu scramble with a side of roasted sweet potatoes, and I added a little extra flavor with salsa and cilantro. I also had a banana and a cup of herbal tea. I drink about 5 cups of tea a day, so I will not be including the cost of tea because this is a what I ate in a week video, not a what I drink in a week video. Busy day today, so I assembled a bowl of leftovers for lunch: a walnut broccoli salad, brown rice, white beans, and half an avocado. It was a beautiful evening today, so I stepped outside in our backyard to have a glass of wine. Disclaimer, drinks were not included in the budget of this video. See website for detail, exclusions may apply. Max and I try to do an outdoor evening happy hour together at least once a week. It's a great way for us to unwind and talk about non-work related stuff. I've been really bad about eating enough greens this past year. This this never-ending past year, and I'm sure many of you can relate, but you know what's a really good way to eat more salad greens? Add an avocado. So I mixed together one perfectly ripe avocado, added some lemon zest for a fresh citrus flavor, a big girl squeeze of lemon juice, kind of just eyeballing it here, and seasoned with salt and pep, and mashed it all together. And for the salad greens, I sliced up some of the spinach into ribbons and added it to the avocado lemon situation and tossed everything to combine. I am very into this ratio of avocado to spinach. I served the salad with a bowl of the soup I made yesterday and finished it with some lemon zest and cilantro on top. And it looks like a little over budget today, but I think we can make it up during the week. Good morning. I started my day with a cup of herbal tea. Surprise, surprise, Nisha loves tea. Just kidding, none of you are surprised because by this point, you all know I am obsessed with tea. Well, hello, it is Wednesday morning. Nope. It is Thursday morning and I'm in the middle of making some breakfast. I really enjoyed the savory breakfast I had earlier this week, but today I'm doing something a little bit sweeter. I'm making a brown rice pudding using brown rice, soy milk, bananas. It's super simple. All I did was add some soy milk to a saucepan along with the brown rice. Then I added a couple spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, and ginger. And then I added a tablespoon of organic sugar and a half teaspoon of vanilla. Technically, sugar and vanilla are not in my grocery list, but they are pantry staples that I always have on hand. And I use just a little bit, so I hope you don't mind. The brown rice pudding has been simmering for 45 minutes at this point. Now I'm going to add in a little bit more soy milk and half of this, I'm gonna mash up this banana and we'll cook it until the brown rice is tender but still has a little bit of a chew. For that remaining half of the banana, I decided to caramelize it for a very delicious topping for the brown rice pudding. I sliced the banana into rounds, heated up just a little bit of oil in a frying pan, medium-low heat, and cooked the banana slices for 3 to 5 minutes, flipped them once they were browned on the bottom, and cooked for 2 to 3 more minutes until they were nicely caramelized. The brown rice pudding is really creamy, and I topped it with those caramelized bananas and a handful of walnuts for a nice crunch. This definitely exceeded my expectations. It's actually quite sweet from the ripe banana, so I probably don't even need the sugar or could use less of it. I really like the crunch from the walnuts because the pudding is creamy. Caramelized bananas add a nice little touch. I'm definitely gonna be making it again, probably adding some variations along the way, maybe some cocoa powder, maybe some orange zest. I think there's a lot of fun ways to jazz it up. For lunch, I decided to use up some of those lemons I bought. I zested a good amount of the lemon, squeezed in some of the juice, again, just eyeballing everything here, and seasoned with some sea salt, freshly cracked black pepper, and just a pinch of chili flakes for a kick. Then I drizzled in some of this extra virgin olive oil from Aldi. It wasn't on my grocery list, oops, but it was already in my pantry. And then I just dumped in a handful of the spinach, which I finely chopped and mixed it all together. I had this as a side salad alongside the main meal, which was my sweet potato white bean soup and a flatbread, which I reheated on the stove. I got a little snackish this afternoon, so I went for a raw sweet potato. Just kidding, I'm not a serial killer. I had a banana instead. I had soup for dinner for the last 2 nights, and 2 nights in a row is pretty much my limit for eating the same thing. So today I'm gonna try something a little different. I've got some mushrooms and walnuts. I'm thinking of making kind of a faux meat situation, loosely inspired by the vegan taco meat in my Crunchwrap Supreme video from last year, though a lot more budget friendly and simpler because I'm just working with what I got. To make this walnut mushroom meat, start by toasting 3/4 cup of walnuts. Toasting the walnuts brings out their natural umami and minimizes the bitterness, and they need 4 to 5 minutes in a frying pan over medium heat. While the walnuts are toasting, just roughly chop up 1 cup of mushrooms. We're gonna pulse the toasted walnuts in a food processor several times until they're minced, and then toss in the mushrooms. Season with salt and pep and a Mexican-ish spice blend. You can find the exact spices and quantities in the blog post, and then just pulse a few more times until the mixture is very finely chopped, but you don't want to blend it completely, otherwise it'll get sticky. Oh, and just a tiny bit of lime juice to bring all the flavors together. Moment of truth. This honestly tastes a lot better than I thought it was gonna taste, given how few ingredients there are. It's really smoky from the smoked paprika, which I love. And all you need to do to finish this walnut mushroom meat is to add it to a hot pan with a bit of olive oil, medium to medium-high heat. I like to cook it in 2 batches so the crumbles have enough space to brown, and just 3 to 5 minutes until it's browned and a bit crispy. I was really pleased with how tasty this was. Even Max, who is usually skeptical of this kind of stuff, really loved it. I really loved tonight's dinner so much. It felt like a Mexican-inspired pizza. I had the last of my flatbreads, which I heated up on the stove. I added some of the leftover black beans with sofrito on top, along with a good amount of this walnut mushroom meat, added half of an avocado, and garnished it with some cilantro for flavor as well as cover. After dinner, we walked over to our local park to enjoy the sunset. Mostly though, I just watched this dynamic father-daughter duo play table tennis, but without a table or a net. Maybe there's another word for this sport. Who's to say? Good morning. I started the day as usual with a cup of tea, but I changed things up a little bit. I enjoyed my tea outside instead of inside. When it was time for breakfast, I reheated the leftover brown rice banana pudding and I sliced the remaining strawberries up for the topping. I added the berries to a saucepan with a bit of water and some lemon zest to give them a little extra flavor and zip. I cooked the strawberries down until they became jammy and syrupy, about 10 minutes, and also topped the pudding with a couple of fresh sliced strawberries for textural contrast and a handful of walnuts for those healthy fats. For lunch, I made a really hearty grain bowl, reheated some of the leftover brown rice, added some roasted sweet potatoes, and the rest of the walnut taco meat, and I grabbed half of an avocado that was left over in the fridge and finished with a bit of salsa and cilantro. I loved how easy and quick it was to throw this bowl together with all of my leftovers. I had plenty of leftovers today to make dinner, but my family wanted us to come over for dinner instead, and who am I to say no to family time and free home-cooked Indian food? And to get a full shopping list and all the recipes I made this week, head down to the blog post, which is linked in the description box below, and then head to your local Aldi to pick up these wholesome and affordable plant-based groceries. Bye!